Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. Today I am going to be taking you along on my journey through the amazing Boston Marathon, the whole weekend, from the exhilarating Expo to exploring the historic streets of Boston to the ultimate test of endurance, the actual marathon itself. It was an amazing weekend and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's dive in. So our first stop was the Expo, and the energy in the Expo is unreal. There are so many people and everybody is so excited to finally get their bib and shop and get all those amazing Boston Marathon goodies, the shirts, Spike the Unicorn, and then there are all the awesome photo booth areas set up that are just so fun to commemorate the weekend and have those pictures to look back on. So lots of stuff going on there, and one of my personal favorites was the Q&A panels that they had. That was really awesome, getting to see Sarah Hall and Emma Bates and just some other amazing elite runners. With some time before the big race, we decided to explore the streets of Boston a little bit, and Newbury becomes home to several pop-up shops over marathon weekend, and it is a runner's paradise with all of the things, and there's even some runner celebrities there, so that was so much fun getting to walk in and see all the shops and all the running things. There is no shortage of ShakeOut Run opportunities on marathon weekend. There are so many ShakeOut Runs on Sunday, and it's so fun to see everybody out there running along the streets of Boston. We chose to do a Puma ShakeOut Run, and it was so fun. After an easy 3-mile jog through the city and along the river, we came back to have some opportunities to take a few pictures with Dakota Lindworm and Bill Rogers. Molly Seidel was there as well, and then we were welcomed back with an amazing breakfast. It was such an awesome surprise, as well as a Q&A panel with some of those pro athletes. The ShakeOut Run was the perfect opportunity to just loosen up the legs and help calm the nerves and mentally prepare for what was ahead on Marathon Monday. After the ShakeOut Run, the perfect way to spend the afternoon was off our feet at a Red Sox game. Now for the big race morning itself. So we loaded onto the school buses, rode up to Hopkinton, did the porta potty lines, got in our corrals, walked down to the CVS, and already I could tell it was like 10:30. Shortly before 10:30, my wave was supposed to start at 10:25, and it was already really feeling warm. And at that point, I was still holding on to the dream of doing a 3:10 or a 3:15. And looking back, I think I should have realized that it was just gonna be too warm, but I was still holding on to that dream and was hoping that the mid-60s weather might not affect me too much. And it actually did end up, I think the day topped out at like 73 degrees. So it did get warmer than we were anticipating. So the plan was I was gonna run the first 4 miles easy, wanted them to feel very easy. They're downhill and just kind of let the hills carry me. I really tried hard to keep looking at my watch and make sure that I was not going out too fast. And so I really tried to stick right around that 7:20 pace. And I felt pretty smooth, locked in until around mile 10, I think, is when I could tell, just looking around at other people, that it wasn't just me. The heat was really starting to affect all of us. I glanced down at my watch a couple times and saw that my heart rate was already above 170, and I really was trying to keep it below like 172. That was kind of like my red flag. And I think it was just the heat. It was making everybody's heart rates. I've heard from so many other people who said their heart rate was just up way higher than it should have been because of that heat. So I continued, I stayed locked into about that 7:20 pace. And I knew at the halfway point that we would go through the Scream Tunnel at Wellesley College, and that would be a boost. And then at mile 16, I was gonna see some friends and see Caleb. And so I was just kind of holding on to that hope and continue to just try to stay right along in those paces. And then mile 17, I think, was really the pivotal point. So mile 17 is right around where the Newton Hills start. And last year I really didn't have a problem with the hills, but this year I think the hills combined with the heat just made my heart rate get up too high. So already by mile 5, my heart rate was like in the low 170s. And then as I got moved along, it started to creep up higher and higher and even got up to 180 right around that mile 17 mark. So around then is when I knew I had to make a choice. And the choice was keep trying at this pace, but potentially not be able to finish or get sick or have to stop and walk. And so I made the decision to just dial it back. And I said, I'm just gonna have to put pace aside, and the goal now is shifting. It is no longer 3:10 or 3:15. The goal kind of just became, I just want to finish this thing. That was right around mile 17. I pushed through the hills. Honestly, I felt like I was going so slow up the hills. Like a few times I thought, I think I could probably walk faster than I am jogging up of this hill right now. But I did not want to walk. And I know, like, I thought about it. I thought about walking, and part of my reasoning was, well, maybe if I walk a little bit, it'll kind of help my heart rate go down a little bit, and then I'll be able to pick up the pace again. But I reminded myself several years ago in Richmond, I had a similar experience, and I stopped and walked, and it was so painful trying to run again. Like, it was just so hard. So I told myself, even if I'm just jogging super slowly, it'll be better than walking, because once I walk, it is so hard to get going again. So I pushed through and I just jogged. It felt like I was barely moving, but I trudged up those hills. And I just stopped looking at my watch around that point to mile 17. My watch was telling me after every mile what my split was for that mile. And around mile 17, I just stopped even paying attention to it. I just didn't even care. And it turned into, I just want to finish. I don't care what my splits are. There were definitely moments where I wanted to stop and walk. I just wanted to quit. I wanted to be done. And in those moments, I thought about the people who want to run but can't. And I thought about my kids and how we always tell them, Efords don't quit. And I wanted to be able to finish and cross the finish line and tell my kids it was hard and it was hot, but Efords don't quit. And I didn't quit. So I willed myself to keep going, and I thank God for the crowds in Boston, because the spectators and their cheers absolutely pulled me through. And I think everybody would say that the crowds really carry you through to the finish. So as I made that turn from Hereford onto Boylston, the crowds will just give you goosebumps. They are so loud. And I decided I'm already going pretty slow, so I'm just gonna smile and I'm gonna try to get some good pictures. And I did. I cheesed it up and tried to get some pictures. So when I crossed the finish line and I stopped my watch and I looked at it, I was honestly shocked that it said 3:20, because I thought that I had gone much slower. It felt like I was going much slower. So I was honestly really pleasantly surprised that though I had not met my A or B or C goal, I did make my D goal, which was to qualify for Boston again next year. So I was really pleasantly surprised to see that number. I was also just so happy to cross the finish line, because there were so many people who were needing medical attention, and I've since then heard stories of so many people who ended up in the hospital just because people were not acclimated to the heat. So I really was just thankful that I was able to finish, because I know it could have ended much differently. So I took very slow steps through the finishing chute, and I felt like I was barely even moving. And when they put the medal around my neck, I was so grateful that I made it to the finish. The Boston Marathon had pushed me to my limits, both physically and mentally. A couple days after Boston, as we were making our reflection video and watching the footage, I laughed when I watched it because I do not remember telling Caleb to cancel any races that I am signed up for.
Cancel any race I've signed up for. Oh my God.
But it just made me laugh because I think so many other marathon runners can relate that there's just something about when we cross the finish line, we're all, I'm never doing that again. It was awful. And then sometimes a couple hours later, sometimes 24 hours later, sometimes a couple days later, but we always come back. And I have no intentions of canceling the races that I am signed up for. In fact, I am signed up for several races. I think I currently have more on the lineup than I ever have had at one time. So be sure to click the like and subscribe button so you can see what's next, because I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, I have some really big goals. I have some really big things planned, honestly, things that terrify me a little bit, but they're goals that I've had and I'm ready to go after them and chase them. And it's gonna be amazing. So make sure you click subscribe so you can follow along on that journey. Thanks again for joining me on this journey as I wrap up this training block and the Boston Marathon 2024. It was an amazing weekend, from the Expo to exploring Boston, the thrill of race day. Boston will always hold a special place in my heart, and I will definitely be back. Drop a comment below on if you think I should run Boston again next year. All right. Ready? Yeah. Huzzah!